What's up, guys, and welcome to another Hungover podcast. Today's topic is going to be Russian hacking in the U.S. election of 2016.
I swear it wasn't me.
Yeah, I swear it wasn't this Russian guy over here, but I'll tell you, I'm one of your hosts, Julien.
And I'm the Russian one, Ivan. And
yes,
it's a great day to be talking about this.
of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm glad we'll delve deep into just what Russian hacking is. Maybe how it's done. Probably not, because we don't know. Or I don't know. I certainly don't know. And also, I guess, we should tell the people that you can get this podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes. And also, if you wanted to see our beautiful faces in video form on YouTube. And if you had the time and really liked this podcast, you could also, or disliked it, choose your battles. But you gotta write us a review on iTunes and maybe give us a 5-star review, because that helps with our visibility on the internet. So Yvonne, we start our podcast every single week off by asking each other, what did you drink last night? And also, what media have you been consuming in the past week?
Cool. Yeah. So last night I had a pretty dope IPA. That was the first time I had it ever before, called Dirt Wolf.
Dirt Wolf.
Dirt Wolf.
that is a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty interesting. I also tried the Leinenkugel seasonal.
Shandy.
Yeah, it's a seasonal.
I remember their shandy was good.
Harvest, some such thing. It's very pumpkin-y. It tastes in between like a pumpkin beer and like a Christmassy thing.
Okay,
so it's
like
got a
nutmeg.
Lot of, yeah, it's got
spices.
a lot of spicing in there, nutmeg and some maybe a hint of gingery type thing. It's an interesting mix. Not a bad beer. I couldn't finish it by myself, but Laura enjoyed it. So there was that. Yes, Dirt Wolf was probably the better choice of the two for me personally.
Awesome. Where is Dirt Wolf from?
That is an excellent question. I don't know. It was on tap, so I didn't see anything about it.
Oh, it was on tap. Nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah. Then, Dirt Wolf Double IPA from Victory. It's a Victory Brewing company.
All right. I didn't know it was from Victory. That's awesome. I'll have to check them out if I get the chance. Sounds pretty good.
Yes. So, yeah, it was good to have what turns
IPA,
out to be a Victory IPA on tap. I love Victory. It's a very good beer company.
Yeah.
And the media I've been consuming, because of all the real spookums, I have been consuming the spookums media. So, Stranger Things came out on Friday, and I binged about 8 episodes of that over the weekend.
My girlfriend Nikki finished it already, I think on Friday.
Solid. Really solid performance there.
That is crazy.
It's incredible that it holds up. I think it does a really good job so far of like holding up to expectations, because Stranger Things was this kind of sneaky sub-hit that did really, really well. That I don't think was supposed to be this major thing, but it tapped into kind of this 80s pop culture revitalization and reimagining, thanks to the 80s not having cell phones.
Right.
And
that's a huge key part.
Exactly. So it feels modern, even though it's kind of nostalgic.
Nice. That's pretty awesome. I should watch it.
Stranger Things is well worth watching. I really recommend that you check it out.
And it's on Netflix, you said? Or,
yeah.
Well, you didn't say, but
it is
on Netflix.
Netflix original series by the Duffer Brothers. Duffer Brothers? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so season 1 was kind of this sneaky hit that came out, and it kind of built momentum by word of mouth. It was a really intense X-File-y kind of sci-fi show, which was pretty cool. And I think season 2 has so far lived up to it from what I've been able to experience. It keeps the characters feeling interesting and fresh, even though we've seen them for a whole season. So that's pretty cool. And there's
Very
a lot of
cool. Very
characters
cool.
too, so it's a difficult thing to manage between the four principal child actors plus another child actor plus a few more incoming actors to the series. So it's pretty intense and pretty well balanced, I think, throughout the whole series so far. I'm only 8
Nice.
episodes in, so
Well, I'm convinced. Hopefully, I have enough free time to watch that. I want to check that out really soon. And now I have 2 seasons to watch as opposed to just one.
that's true.
All
The
you
other
suckers out there ran out of content to watch. I stockpile that shit.
The other thing is because of the spookums, I consumed some actual live theater in the
Whoa,
form of a
cool.
haunted house.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
How
was
was
a
that?
really intense haunted house that was around Scranton. It's called Reaper's Revenge, and they throw it
Okay.
every year, but they kind of change it up every year. How many haunted houses have you been to?
I've been to maybe 1 or 2, so I don't know.
Did you go to the one in Syracuse? The
I
one
think I
in
went to that
Syracuse?
one, yeah.
So in Syracuse, outside in the state fairgrounds, there's like an area where they
Central
usually
New
do
York.
like 4 haunted houses and a hayride.
Oh, yeah. That sounds familiar. Yep.
Yeah. So this was similar in that there was a hayride and then a series of haunted houses, and then it was over. But
Okay.
it was dramatically better. It's
Nice.
ridiculous how much effort was put into this. I think it's still going for a week, but nobody listens to our pod, so it's okay.
Well, now people like our Facebook page, which you can go check out on facebook.com. Search Hungover Podcast there, and you can like that page as well. So we're reaching more people.
We are.
Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the podcast.
But by the time this comes out, it'll be barely a spoiler
Yeah.
for the people in the area. Anyway, so the hayride starts out. You go through to this gate where this animatronic Reaper is on top, and he's not that cool, but he's got this booming voice and lots of sound effects, and you're on
Did
edge
he
because
have-
you're waiting for actors to come out and
Oh
nab
my
you.
god, and fucking grab you and touch you.
They can touch
did
you
he
in
have
this
a
thing,
scythe?
too. He did have a scythe.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, the actors can
God.
absolutely touch you at
That's
this place.
also horrifying. Fuck that.
And so you're waiting, you're on edge, you're looking around, and then boom! There's this thunderous thing, and these massive jets of fire.
Oh my
shoot
god.
up, like 4 of them around the hayride. And so
Wow.
you're like, well done.
I'm
sirs.
impressed. Well done.
So then there's a series of different kind of interaction points along
Yeah.
the hayride, and there are different themes. So the first one was kind of like The Ring, and there was a contortionist woman who looked like the girl from The Ring who got onto the hayride carriage or whatever, and she could move with her arms backwards, her hands
That's-
backwards, and she got
that's
up and
pretty
did like
fucking
contortionist moves. And
Oh
her,
god.
and her body cracked
Oh,
and everything.
Jesus
It
Christ,
was
no.
really freaky. And they had like an old school television that played
Yeah.
the Ring video, and
An
then they
old
had a
tube
well
TV.
recreated a little bit
Tube
further where she came out of.
Holy crap, that's horrifying.
It was
Fuck that.
serious spookums. And then along the way, there were a whole bunch of different other attractions. Like there was some zombies that came out of, or ghouls that came out of a graveyard and ran at the thing. And one of them was in this red jacket. And I'm thinking, that looks very familiar. And then they get the red ghoul gets onto the hayride, and it starts. It's like the tractor is pulling it slowly, and then you hear ba 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 ba.
Oh, shit,
And there's a
that's awesome.
disco ball that lights up, and he starts doing the Thriller dance in the carriage ride, and
Oh,
there are other
shit.
ghouls that start dancing in the background.
So
was
it wasn't
awesome.
just scary, it was also a really cool performance.
Yes, so you see, I
Wow.
got some real theater media.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then there was some really cool haunted houses, including one that was a pitch black zone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fuck
it's
that.
a
Nope. No.
it was a maze that it's a maze haunted house that's totally pitch black, and the only way you can get through it's literally pitch black. It's not like even just a little light. It's like they tell you don't wear hats and take your glasses off before entering so that you don't lose them.
Yeah. Okay. That's horrifying.
Yeah, so they're like, there was this little girl in the carriage ride with us, and she's like, "But without my glasses, I won't be able to see anything." And her parents were like, "It's
That's
pitch
cute.
black. You won't be able to see anything anyway." And it really was. You couldn't see anything, and then you're just negotiating by touching the walls, which are covered in all sorts of different crap, like bubble wrap kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
soaked in water. So everything is like liquidy or slimy, and you're crawling through.
And they had spaghetti in a plate, and you're supposed to touch it.
No, it wasn't that cheesy, but it was pretty close. And then at some point, the fire alarm went off, so all the lights in the house went up, and they were like,
Oh,
"Get
fuck.
out!" And it was so like disorienting. The whole thing was like, is that supposed to happen? Apparently no, just a fire alarm got set off, so everybody had to go out.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yes.
I can't believe that happened.
So we didn't get to finish it, and but then we went through this last one, and it was myself, Laura, and one of our friends from down in PA.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it was either him. No, it was usually him that went first, Laura in the middle, and me in the back. So it allowed me the opportunity to reach out and scare her and everything. But she wanted that for safety's sake. But in the last haunted house section, the actor forced her to go ahead by herself. So she went through the whole haunted house by herself.
Oh
And there
my
was
God.
like a room where it's all
I'm gonna
fog.
have a fucking heart attack.
And
dude.
there's a laser, like circular laser, green laser. So
Yeah.
you're looking at where the laser is coming from because it's shining down on you. And there's fog
Okay.
everywhere. And the lighting is done in such a way that it's everything in front of you is kind of invisible. And so you can walk through this fog-filled room, and people can come up literally like right here, and you never saw them. And so
Wow.
one of the actors came up here and like grabbed
Oh my
a
God.
neck and then like touched the neck, and it was
I think I would actually have a heart attack, and that's like crazy. I'm surprised those actors don't get attacked or like jump scare attacked. And someone just it must happen to some of them, and I hope they're all right,
I
because
agree.
that's not a job I would want to do, but
Me
also kind of want to do it.
I think I've known actors that have done haunted houses before, and they get a good time getting to like do the dress up and scare people. That's pretty fun.
Nice.
There's one room where it was just like all white, and there were these white sheets that you couldn't like see past, and you had to move them out of the way.
Wow.
And there were blood splatters, and we walked in the room, and I was like, "It's like Dexter! I know this!" And then Laura goes, "Yeah, but shitty." And then this zombie, like, corpse bride jumped at her.
Oh my
She got
God.
freaked
Fuck
out,
that.
and I was like, "Ha!
It's exactly like Dexter.
Take that!" Anyway, that was my Halloween. So I
Man,
consumed
that's
a lot
awesome.
of Spookums media. How about you?
Well, I'd want to say that I always thought that haunted houses were really corny, but it sounds like that one's some next level shit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we should go to the one in Sleepy Hollow next year. That
Oh,
one's pretty
shit.
cool. It's the same kind of thing. It's like 3 haunted houses, a carriage ride that tells the story of the Ichabod Crane, Sleepy Hollow.
Uh-huh.
It's in somewhere in the Hudson Valley.
Okay, well,
So
we
it's-
can plan for it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and the actors that they hire for it are like top notch.
Are you allowed to record any of it? No, probably not. Okay, so we can't make a video out of it,
You
but
can make a video out of
maybe
all the
we
Spookums before and after.
that would be fun. I think that would be a fun vlog type video that we could put up on our YouTube channel. Yeah. So for me, I went to a party last night, a Halloween party, because it is indeed Halloween weekend as we're recording this, or the weekend before Halloween rather. And so I went as Punished Venom Snake again because I am trying to enact the term milking it for all it's worth, because I spent a lot of money on that costume, so I wanted to at least wear it twice in my life. And maybe I can hold it in reserve if I ever go to Comic-Con again. That would be pretty cool to cosplay. But yeah, so I went to a party in military gear. If you don't know who Punish Venom Snake, he's the main character of Metal Gear Solid 5, a game Yvonne should play. He has it, and it's free, or was free, on PlayStation Plus a while ago. So that game is super fun, and I went as him. I was in military gear at a Halloween party. And I did, let's see, I drank some Magic Hat number 9. I like that beer, so
Nice.
picked it up. It was pretty good. Drank some coconut water. Wasn't hungover this morning, so, and didn't puke myself, so I'm very happy.
Solid
And solid move. Also, I played a bunch of video games today. I got to stream video games. Unfortunately, I couldn't stream on, you can follow me on twitch.tv/GGBsgood in the description below. But yeah, I didn't get to stream on Saturday or Friday because my internet was giving me fucking problems again. We didn't get good upload speed. We've been getting like now less than 1 megabyte upload speed, and then it fixed
Yikes.
itself again. I don't know. So it might just be a recurrent problem every Friday and Saturday that I just have crappy upload speed, but we'll see. I have to figure that one out.
It's weird that it happens on specific days.
Well, it happens during peak hours, I would assume, of internet usage. But I hope the problem maybe sorts itself out. I don't know how the internet works, again. I don't know if anyone does, except for the companies that provide it, and maybe Ajit Pai. But yeah, so other than that, I played Super Mario Odyssey. I just beat the game. Well, I didn't do any of the end game stuff, which is apparently pretty much doubling the game. So I'm super excited about that. And I played some Super Smash Bros. Melee and lost every single match I played. But it was so much fun. It's so much fun to play against. I played it online. You can do that now in 2017. It's a great time to live. But it's so much fun to play that game. I've forgotten against someone competitively. It's a really fun game. So that was that. And then this morning, I went with my mom and my girlfriend Nikki to this great place. This isn't media or anything, or a drink that I consumed, I guess. But it's this really great place. I took my mom there. Nikki and I found it. It's a Chinese place, this sort of Chinese cafe, I guess. Yeah, it's like it's a bakery, but so they have a bunch of Chinese baked goods, some sweet, some savory. You know, the old adage that Chinese people will turn anything into something that's really Asian by slipping a hot dog in there. Yeah, so they have a bunch of baked goods with hot dogs in them. Super Asian. But the most important thing is their menu, that they serve a bunch of different really Hong Kongese food. So food from Hong Kong. Particularly, they do Spam and 2 eggs over rice.
Delicious.
With some steamed cabbage. We had that. So good. That is amazing. And it's just things like, why would you go somewhere to have that? It's just something you can make yourself very easily.
Yes.
But it's really nice to have someone make it for you. But we also had like steamed rice crepes. It's I hope to be able to take you there, Yvonne. It's really awesome.
Nice.
And then they have bubble tea that's actually pretty good. And Nikki got a mango bubble tea. But yeah, so we went there, and if you're looking for it, it's on 79th Street on the D train. 79th and I think 17th Avenue, 17th Bay Park Avenue, New Utrecht. Sorry, that's close enough. I don't fucking know. It's like on 8 in reality. It's on 82nd and New Utrecht Avenue. All right, that's where it is. Just go. It's the corner bakery. All right, just go there. Super awesome place. And then that's about it in terms of media. I haven't really watched anything. I watched some more Archer, actually. I'm catching up with that show. I actually really, really like that show.
That show's
One
really
of my
good.
favorites. Yeah. One of my favorites. But yeah, I think that's about the end of our intro section. So we can totally move into the topic of the show, which is indeed a very touchy topic, Russian hacking. So Yvonne, where do you think we should start with this? I think it's best to start personally with the Russian government, um, because of this sweet flowchart that you sent me. But I think it's really important to start there because I generally don't have very much knowledge of how the Russian government is run, and I feel like you have a little more insight than me. But obviously, there's Vladimir Putin. Putin. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Putin. Putin. Like
poutine, but not Canadian.
Canadian.
More Russian.
Okay. and with pierogies instead of pierogies and gravy, that would be awesome. Are we into that? I think we should make some poutine without the and cheese curds.
Pierogies
Wouldn't that be
Russian,
good?
Dude.
Sorry, all right, but you like to eat them.
Pierogies are Polish.
I know they're Polish, but you guys like to eat them, right? That's that's like saying you're Chinese. Don't you eat sushi? Exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
We'll start from the pierogi scandal, and then we'll move into the hacking scandal.
It's just very popular to talk about this, so we figured we'd throw our 2 cents in. I don't know much about the topic, but I think we can start with the Russian government.
Right. So, let's start with the man in charge of the Russian government.
The legend.
Vladimir Putin. Former KGB officer, entered into the St. Petersburg political arena, eventually gets higher and higher, and then he gets kind of selected. The first time he becomes in charge of the Russian government, he was selected by Yeltsin, who resigned and then said Putin would be the president. There's a series of kind of controversial things that occur during his initial presidency time to bolster his image and make sure that he gets elected, including a Chechen war, some that were precipitated by some supposedly not bombings that were carried out not by terrorists, Chechen terrorists, but by people who were ordered by Putin. There's some controversy in this in terms of did it actually happen, did it not happen? Different sources state different things. But to say the least, Putin's presidency, his time in charge has been mired by lots of conspiracies and different things that have followed him basically throughout. What's interesting is that despite the fact that Putin is viewed from the West as a hardline dictator, in Russia itself, he's super popular. He's seen as being not just a strong person in terms of positioning Russia as a globally important power, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, but standing up to the ideas that are put forth by an America who has hegemonic power across the world.
And there's no term limit in terms of presidency in Russia, is there?
There are, but it's weird because it can be manipulated, and it's so
by the person in power, maybe.
Yeah. So Putin served two terms, left. His successor Medvedev served 1 term, and then he returned in an independent party. And there's a way that with independent parties you can continue running and different things, but the question is he going to keep repeating this pattern, and at what point will the pattern need to end, or is he going to repeat it to a coffin?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of things to do with Putin. So his reluctance to relinquish power, his in terms of being the person in charge and different things. So his selection of successors, has he been able to grow a solid political class that would be able to maintain even the level of government that he's installed, which is not the greatest in the world, but it's holding together a country that is the largest country on earth with a diminishing, it had a diminishing population. Now the population is stabilized, but still a lot more land than people, and a lot of just huge distance between cities, between the capital and the far east side. It's a ridiculous amount of territory to govern.
spans over 2 continents. So yeah.
Yes, and it's economically it is very stagnant. A lot of the way that the transition occurred from the Soviet Union to the USA was dictated by U.S. economists from Harvard. Was dictated by the structure of position of power that was the enduring legacy of the USSR, and so in the rush to become a capitalist country, things weren't done properly in terms of opening up access to everybody, and so it's a society which, even though they've transitioned from socialism, communism under the USSR to a capitalist society, it's not a fully transparent capitalist society. The movement to democracy has been stilled too. So it's a more blatantly obvious version of, in my opinion, it's a more blatantly obvious version and a more efficient version of stealing from the people, from a lot of oligarchs in terms of seizing different power and different economic enterprises. And it's a lot more blatant version of than what we have in the States. So in the States, the 1% controls a vast amount of resources, capital, etc.
Yes.
In Russia, it's a very similar structure in terms of the small capitalist class controls the means of production, and that the majority of the working class is there are movements and different things, but they also kind of support Putin. It's kind of a dual consciousness, right? So you support the person who is able to hold the system together, but the system isn't fully benefiting you. The one thing that Putin had going for him is that during his 2000-2008, there was vast spikes in oil prices, natural gas prices, so he was able to capitalize on those in terms of building and growing the Russian economy, because as those gas prices went up, so did the Russian economy. But since then, there have been a lot of different events: the catastrophic 2008 crisis, the falling oil and gas prices, the machinations of Saudi Arabia in terms of oil production, combined with U.S. banking policies, have been limiting of the Russian economy. Now that the Russians have proved that they could survive the Saudi oil binge, that there's been connections between Saudi Arabia and Russia again. But in general, it's been a very tough and tumultuous time, especially in the past 4 years. And a lot of that has to do with falling gas prices, the global economy being on a standstill, and then finally, the most critical part is that the banking system in Russia and the Russian economy being diminished by U.S. sanctions that were imposed by Barack Obama after the supposed invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and the seizing of Crimea by Russia to be Russian territory.
Okay.
So all of this kind of sets up the picture of Putin and his administration. Crimea set aside, because that's an issue that can be tackled for a very long and enduring time. The Obama administration put in sanctions and continued to push for sanctions to be more critical and more targeted in terms of punishing the Russian Federation for their movement in Crimea and Ukraine.
Right.
At the same time, there was movement from the American government to do things in Ukraine. Also, Syria didn't help the situation because Syria was a Russian ally. Stabilizing Syria.
We talked about Syria, didn't we?
We did.
In one of our past podcasts. So if you want to go check that out, definitely do so. Go look it up.
Yeah. So destabilizing Syria also put the U.S. and Russia at odds, because Syria is a traditional Russian ally. So there's a lot of things brewing in the air. And so when we come to the 2016 election, as I'm sure all governments do, especially governments with high cyber technology, there were implementations of attempting to sway an election one way or another. I'm not saying that all governments do this in the most blatant way or the most effective or inactive way that active way that the Russian government has been accused of doing, but I'm positive that there are historical measures in which all governments of major political powers have been attempting to influence the election cycles of others. I mean, you can look at the countless numbers of ways of the U.S. interfering, the United Kingdom interfering, France interfering with the UK, France with their colonies, the U.S. with the entirety of Latin America for generations.
And a lot in the Middle East as well.
Yes, removing Mossadegh in '53 in Iran spurned the Iranian people and created a tremendous enemy to the American people in Iran, because that was the UK and the USA colluding together to remove the socialist elected prime minister in Iran, Mossadegh. So, yes. Regardless, we have seen lots of things. That does not excuse the actions of a government from interfering in a duly democratic process. But let's talk about now what actually happened. So we have several different layers of Russian electronic interference in the elections. So we have the hacking of the DNC emails. We have the targeted Facebook
emails.
Targeted Facebook things.
The fake news on Facebook.
Fake news on Facebook.
Right.
And just, I mean, stories, etc., abound in terms of more emails and things being hacked. So we have an attack on the Democratic Party through John Podesta's emails being hacked, the other DNC leaders being hacked. Then we also have the targeted news stories going on social media, Facebook, etc. And we have to talk about how did these affect things? Did these affect things? What was the point of them, etc. So I don't know if you have any questions, thoughts so far in the progress of what we're talking about. Maybe this would be a good time to interject. Or
I feel like I want to know how much you think the fake, quote unquote, fake news on Facebook and social media that was being passed around, how much do you think that influenced the general populace's opinion of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party, and also of Trump as well? How do you think that swayed, if at all, the election? Do you think that played a major role?
I think that the idea of fake news in and of itself, we have to really look at the history of development. How do we arrive to the point where people can go on Facebook, of all places, and increasingly Facebook, Twitter, were people's sources of legitimate news, and they're not reading anything behind a headline.
Right.
So they read a headline on Facebook, you get the headline, the little blurb, and this is people being informed.
Yes.
So I think that fake news is probably it is an important piece of the puzzle that we should look at in the whole practicum, right? So fake news is getting to the point that the structure of American education is such that it is attempting to dumb down the populace at large so that there's a lack of critical thinking, there's a lack of questioning, and there's a whole lot of believing things at face value.
Right, so everyone's acting on impulse and formulating opinions that they can't necessarily back up with facts.
This has been cultivated...
Or alternate facts.
And it didn't start with the election of Trump. It didn't start with even the 2016 campaign cycle. If you look at Sarah Palin and the idea of the real America, right? These are terms that are designed to strike at emotionality and really dig through and they're a simple term that can dig deep into a person's core because it's something that they can connect with easily and on an emotional, instinctual level. And we have been moving away from science and education as a collective people, and instead moving into sly, slick people making a buck as quick as they can, doing it in any way possible, right? The capitalist system hasn't worked for me just yet, you know? I haven't made it big yet. I'm not rich yet. But if I become rich, I need everything to be ready for me when I am rich, right? It's an emotional argument that doesn't really have much to do with the logic of the situation, right? It's going back to that slot machine, right? Everybody's at the slot machine ready for them to hit the jackpot. And it's the very same way with fake news, right? So we're trying to design, and people who are, I don't know why I interjected that. People are attempting
We're all Americans, Yvonne. That's why.
To convey a story, and especially of this ilk, are doing it in order to hit that emotional resonance and play on the fact that most people only do a cursory set of research on any given topic.
Okay.
If there is any research at all. So, I mean, I'll read the headline, I'll read the first sentence, and then I've considered myself an educated, newsworthy person. And I think that a lot of those things played into the fact that, so, America has been dumbing itself down for a long time, and there have been efforts by certain groups, certain media, to make sure that people who value science over religion or religious beliefs or believing things on faith are worse. People who are intelligent and smart are eggheads that don't have facts because they can be manipulated in different things, and statistics can say whatever you want. So,
well, yeah, when you cherry pick your data,
exactly.
That's a thing.
So we've been building this huge distrust of media in general, especially official media, and then we've been growing how social media works in terms of communicating between people. And so fake news has this resonance. These news articles that aren't real or are based on like the slightest hint of truth are one thing. But then there are also articles that are put out, or issues that are put out, like they claim that the Russian hackers really affected people through Pokemon Go or whatever.
That's the game I was thinking. I was like, there's some connection to video games here.
Yeah.
And
So is Pokemon Go a Russian hacking, a Russian hacker, a Russian troll way of dividing the country?
A Russian person.
So what were they doing on Pokemon Go? They said, go to gyms and name your Pokemon after people who have died in police brutality cases. Win the gym over and take a picture, and you'll win X amount of. You'll be entered to win a gift card or whatever. Which they still haven't found out whether anybody actually participated. They just had these things. Right. So it's not even technically, it's not even really fake news in general, right? It's just these troll things it's a group of people pointing out an issue that exists, not taking a side on it, but just pressuring people to take a look at it. So my question is, okay, yes, fake news is bad, but we have Trump who spouts fake news every single day. So how did the Russians affect Trump? I don't know. But in terms of people bringing up issues, like if there are Russian troll groups, hacking groups, bringing up issues that are real issues in this country and just saying, hey, look at these, and it divides people, how is that affecting the election in a way that is unreasonable? That's my first kind of quibble with this. Yes, fake news is bad, but there were American students. There was a guy on like the New York Times that got interviewed who was making like tens of thousands of dollars and helping put himself through, I think, a grad school of some sort, law school, by creating fake news, Like Hillary had stuffed ballot boxes in Ohio in a warehouse, and somebody had stopped by and seen it. And he was creating these fake news stories and posting them. So if there were some Americans that were participating in the economy of fake news, and Fox is a big part of that too. Then the economy of fake news isn't just something that the Russians stumbled upon and created. It was something that existed and was exploited.
I see.
So I think it contributed,
sorry.
what was really important and really critical is the way in which it seemed to be so targeted and focused. So either pushing out stories that would suppress Hillary voters, or alternatively pushing people to go out and vote with certain fake news stories that were set to hit people in certain precincts. And that is something that's super critical, because if we're looking at that, I don't think that could have been, that kind of informational level could have been done solely based on Russian intelligence groups, Russian hacker groups knowing these things. There had to be some connection to intelligence gathering on the U.S. side to know which precincts need to be targeted and which people lived in those areas that could be targeted. So that's where my thing is in terms of the fake news. So, just bringing up an issue that is an issue in this country is not necessarily a terrible thing, because we should be talking about issues. B, fake news is bad, but was also contributed by Americans tapping into the economy of fake news. And C, how did the Russians know which precincts and people to target if they did do that? And the intelligence community has said, yeah, they did that. So that's my intriguing part. How did they connect which precincts needed to be addressed?
Well, if they have access, I don't know, because I don't know, I don't know what information they have, but I'm guessing they probably had some sort of way of probing the American people and their general beliefs. Probably, it could be through maybe the census. Maybe they got information from the census about where people are and what their beliefs are and how to target them, etc. And maybe they can make some broad strokes using that sort of information. That's sort of my theory. But I wanted to know, do you think these hackers, quote unquote, are commissioned by the Russian government, or is this just a sort of like an anonymous group?
I think probably at different levels there are different people
trying to fuck shit up.
I think that the two attacks that we know the most about, the two bears, what are they, Cozy and Fancy Bear, those are Russian government hacking groups that targeted the DNC emails. But the interesting thing is that from the reports that I've been listening to from news analysts or reading,
and where maybe for our viewers and listeners, where is your we're talking about fake news, so where is your primary source generally that you go to get your news?
So I do a collective action of New York Times, RT, some Russian-based news, just to attempt to get some from that side. But
of course,
Russian media is almost all state media, so it's very hard to find independent Russian journalists. It's exciting when I get independent Russian articles and different things.
And these articles are in Russian,
I'm
guessing.
Yeah.
So it's that would be difficult for someone who doesn't speak Russian to do.
Most likely.
But you suggest the New York Times, and they're reputable, obviously.
New York Times is decent from getting the American perspective on things. The thing that I've found out is that a lot of the times, things get misreported both ways. Of course, Russian state media isn't the most reliable source, but I found a lot of times CNN, the Washington Post, or some other of these places will pick up. Well, maybe not so much the Washington Post, but definitely places like CNN will pick up sound bites that somebody has said that a disreputable news source will report on. Then through cycles and cycles and cycles and cycles of the same article being republished,
game of telephone, right?
It will eventually be brought to a CNN and then reported as fact, even though I've read the Russian statement and it has nothing to do with what the article is saying that it did. So it's
Sounds
just like
about right.
this game of telephone of people interpreting things that they're over interpreting or they're deliberately misinterpreting to generate the biggest headline possible. Like
Yeah.
there was one that Medvedev said Trump has to be destroyed or something like that. And that he was saying that the DNC or the Washington establishment needed to destroy Trump. And that's what his actual quote was.
Yeah.
He was talking about how the Washington establishment was attacking Trump, but it came out on the other side that the Russian prime minister said that Trump needed to be destroyed or eliminated,
Okay.
liquidated.
That fantastic, and that's just between two places that didn't go
That
through
leapt
a
from
third place.
from his mouth, his posting on Facebook to a
Yeah.
direct misinterpreting and deliberate. Like it had to be. That's like no person who speaks Russian could make that mistake unless they were deliberately hacking up what he said.
I see. That's crazy, man. So there's people to fault on both sides.
Yeah,
I would
so
assume.
I
Yeah.
don't know. The New York Times is a pretty solid place. NPR covers a lot of things that if you're going for a more public. The Guardian is decent.
I like NPR. Yeah.
The more, like, if you're looking at Western things, they're going to have a Western slant. So I acknowledge the fact that Russian state media is probably not the most reliable source, but Western media is also not a 100% guaranteed reliable source. And
Of
the
course.
fact that journalists and reporters are able to totally forget that the CIA works as an intelligence operation and can lie to the journalists and people and different things, and has distinctly done that previously, in order to drum up different results that it wanted to. It seems intriguing to me that journalists are well able to ignore the necessary levels of reporting, and just for a quick turnaround of a headline, rather than waiting for the story to develop.
That's crazy.
So that's a lot of the times it's like, so we should just believe the CIA at its word all the time, even though previously there have been like cases where the CIA has not told the American people the truth based on operations that they were conducting, and the result of what they needed to happen hadn't happened yet, so they were obfuscating the truth. It's an intriguing set of principles to me that anything that comes out of Russia is false. Anything that comes out of the CIA's spokespeople is truth. But I wouldn't, personally, on a personal level, I wouldn't believe it just because it's an intelligence operation. It doesn't need to speak the truth.
I see.
Yeah. Anyway, so in terms of fake news, I also stay off of Facebook, stay off of Twitter. I don't think those are places to gather news.
Yeah, but it's a great place to like the Hungover Facebook podcast page. But yeah, so don't believe what you read on Facebook and Twitter generally, I think, or maybe click on it, but definitely try to do some investigation into where they got their sources, what they're saying. Don't just take the headline for face value.
Also,
take it with a grain of
it's
salt.
possible that if one news site is reporting it, and then you just take that and you're like, okay, I'll Google it, and then you see that, okay, a bunch of different places are reporting the same story, it's possible they're all reporting from the same source, which is an illegitimate source. So, for instance, I Googled that Medvedev quote. There are like 15 results, all saying the same thing.
The top 15
and
results?
All saying bullshit lies, all based on the same article from the same place.
Right. So yeah, stay away from, I guess, try to stay away from .coms. I know the NY Times is a .com, but I would say in general maybe try to go to a .org, or if you're using the internet to look up articles or things like that, because they're a little more trustworthy, in my opinion. I think you can at least
I would also say take
it with a grain of salt.
Take the view that people are reporting as soon as something comes out generally don't have the facts as
they don't have the full
as
story
possible.
yet.
So taking a more a lengthier view of something as complicated as this Russian hacking into the U.S. election that's
Hmm.
necessary. And I'm saying that a longer view isn't just 1 year. It's or a week. You know, it could be 2 years before we finally find out what the truth of the matter is.
Yeah, and if there's anything that we could have done, or if there's anything that needs to be done after this is become a fact,
Yeah,
that
there are plenty
yeah,
of other things that could have been done to prevent 70,000 votes from swinging an election.
absolutely.
Right. So if election day wasn't held on a Tuesday, if we modified the electoral college to reflect modern priorities and the fact that we don't have slave owners in the Senate and House of Representatives anymore, so we don't
Hmm.
need to worry about the electoral college. So there are concrete ways that we could develop a better democracy, or like educate people on how a system of government works, how to find news, how to believe things,
Right.
versus just blaming the election of Donald Trump on the easy to blame villain of Russia, when we have a lot of cold warriors that still exist in a lot of intelligence places on both sides.
Hmm. Yeah, it's clearly not just Russia's fault, or if they played any role at all. Well,
I'm saying that
is yet to
there's an
find out.
there's an agreement among U.S. intelligence and in European allies that Russia did affect the U.S. election in terms of
Hmm.
this, but we have to think about
The whole
the
picture.
whole picture, and it's too easy to just blame Russia for the reason that Donald Trump is there.
Well, we've
A,
been
th-
blaming
a
Russia
third,
forever.
a third, like a third of the U.S.
In our
voting
movies, anyways.
population didn't show up. Maybe we think
Absolutely,
about
yeah.
that. Maybe we think about
Yeah.
the fact that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote and still couldn't get elected.
Hmm.
Okay.
She won the wrong, the wrong votes. Yeah, so it's a stressful topic. Of course, Donald Trump is our president, whether you like it or not, and we have to deal for at least another 3.5 years now, of his presidency. So a lot of nonsense, and I hope he can make a good relationship with Russia, but I don't think that's going to happen, personally.
I mean, the
And
Russian government was seeking for the sanctions to be lifted by the the next U.S. president, and clearly that was not guaranteed to happen with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton was openly um, critical of the Russian government.
hmm
Somebody who showed favoritism to the Russian government was Trump, so there is some level of that, right? So you don't take the person who would have succeeded Obama's policies in regards to Russia, so not Hillary Clinton, so Trump. But they're not showing results on easing of sanctions through Trump, so there is also some critical sides on the Russian side.
hmm
If the Russians were hacking, they were hoping for a single result, and that result hasn't occurred. So what's going to happen in the future in terms of this is important too.
Yeah, so I think the good thing to take away from this whole situation, is that the United States, despite being so far away from so many other countries, and still being such a large superpower is in the world, is really not in a bubble. The United States is not in a bubble. We can be affected by many other countries, particularly Russia in this case. And I think that's something to take away, because I feel like a lot of Americans, and I'm guilty of this myself, that we don't really think about the rest of the world, in the same way that, say, your average European person thinks about the rest of the world, because they border so many different countries. They're always experiencing different cultures and things like that. I'd say a lot of Americans don't end up leaving America ever. And I think that is really well. I think that you should take the time and the money to travel somewhere in order to experience. I think that's really important in order to understand, that the United States it's a great country. God bless America, but it's not the only country in the world, and everyone else has their own agenda. You know what I mean? So the United States, we have our own problems, internal problems, and we need to, and everyone's closely watching it. So it's not just us watching ourselves. So I feel like that's maybe not necessarily related at all, but I think
I mean, I've
I
had
think it's
conversations
important
with
to know.
all of the international people that I worked with, a lot of Europeans,
Yeah,
etc., about the U.S. They know a lot about U.S. politics, etc.
right, right. My point was, I feel like the average American does not know that much about other governmental systems at
I
all,
agree, and the
that are
thing is that
currently
it's not
happening.
just Europeans, Eastern Europeans like Russians. Um, in Turkmenistan, the Turkmen people knew about Trump
Mm-hmm.
and had questions for me about that. In South Africa, I experienced the same thing in Turkey years before. So people around the world are curious about what's happening in America, and it's a little
Well,
um,
it's because it affects everywhere in the world
yeah,
what happens in
and
America.
but it's a little
So,
bit the arrogance of a lot of the arrogance of the ignorance is it bothers me a lot when people in America don't really afford to look elsewhere. And it's hard, I
yes,
understand, but
yes.
it's a critical piece of acknowledging the existence of a world system and different things. So yeah, I agree with your point.
Yeah, so right, and I'm not saying that travel is easy for Americans. I know as a fact it's very expensive to fly anywhere. But I think flights, for instance, flights in Europe to other countries in Europe probably cheaper. I'm
Or you
guessing,
could just take a train,
or you could take
or
the
just
train, which
drive
is
two
really
hours and
nice.
be in a different country.
Yeah, so we're not so lucky in America to have that opportunity, but I think it's very important in order to become a world citizen, I guess. In order to do that, you need to make the effort and actually spend the money to do it. So I think it's very important. I've been lucky. My parents have taken me everywhere. Well, not everywhere in the world, but they've taken me so many places. I'm really thankful to that they've done that. I was, for instance, my dad took me to South Africa. I didn't think I would ever make it to Africa in my lifetime, and that was a really great experience for me. So, and I'm a changed person because of it. Just I spent 10 days there. So, um, I think our colleges try to do this in many ways. They try to. I mean, you don't really learn much in terms of book stuff when you go abroad for college. I think I didn't do it. But you get the cultural experience, quote unquote. And I think that's really important. So if you have that maybe you're in college right now listening to this, if you have that opportunity to apply for a study abroad program, definitely do that, because you don't really get these options when you go into the workforce, I think.
Yes.
You have to take time off, then you have to plan the trip, and then you gotta deal with Delta or United getting punched in the face. It's real shitbag experience.
Anyway,
Going through
Julian,
security, pre-check,
you
TSA.
know what you might do if you're on one of those planes traveling across the
what
world?
what
You
is
might listen to
this?
our podcast. And you
Yes.
might listen to music. And you know what? Sometimes those two things, they collide together in a segment that we call Hungover Radio.
Yes, this is what we call it. Today we have a song for you guys, but I would like to tell you. Well, I chose this song, but I'd like to tell you I've done this out of order and I fucked up. But you can send in your song to gaminghungover@gmail.com. That is our shared email address, the Hungover Gaming email address. We couldn't get hungovergaming@gmail.com, god damn it.
Sorry, folks.
But yeah, so you can send in your song, whether you wrote, produced, or maybe your friend wrote or produced or played an instrument on this song that you want to send in, because it's free advertisement for you guys. And also we want to share your music with the rest of the Hungover Gaming community. So you can totally, or Hungover Podcast community, you can totally send in your music. We would totally love to play it at the end of our podcast in MP3 form. But on the YouTube channel, we will link it in the description below should we get anything sent in. But if not, I usually pick a video game song because we don't get copyrights for that sort of stuff, which is awesome. Although this one, I don't know. We might, because this is... I'll put a link to this one also because Nintendo, they like to give us copyright strikes. But This song is called Jump Up Superstar from the new game Super Mario Odyssey that I said I've been playing a lot of. It's an amazing game. You should go check it out if you have a Nintendo Switch, although if you do have a Nintendo Switch, you probably already checked it out. This game is really amazing, and I hope you guys get a chance to play it. Also, we played through the first 40 minutes of it on our YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out, go ahead and subscribe to Hungover Gaming for more YouTube awesome game fun stuff. But yeah, Vaughn, thanks so much for educating the people about this Russian hacking situation. Definitely helped me out understand the situation a lot more. Thank you so much. Your knowledge is always appreciated.
Thank you, Julien.
Yeah, so we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Bye.